Good afternoon, Las Vegas, Nevada. This is Clark with Be Heard. Call in if you'd like, 702-493-5222, so you can be heard. And we're broadcast all over the world, really, especially here in the United States. Heard from coast to coast and everywhere else on the internet, on radiotribune.com. Just have to go to a computer and fire it up and go to a search engine, type in radiotribune.com, click on a microphone there if you get on the right web page, and a little black screen will come up with an arrow there. You click on that and you can listen to the live shows and become informed and be heard, because we're a show about solutions. So you're welcome to call in 702-493-5222 and tell us how we can make this country great again. I know one way, and that's get Donald Trump in the White House, and that'll help turn over the table, so to speak, on these entrenched political operatives called politicians, which are despicable cockroaches that really, once they get entrenched and they get power, you can't get it out of their hands, and they go a long, long way to destroy this country. And we have to stop that. This country is being destroyed by these maniacs like Harry Reid's and Nancy Pelosi's that don't have a clue about what they're talking about. Nancy Pelosi is one of my favorite to point out how she says, well, we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it. Have you ever heard of anything so idiotic in your life? I mean, what kind of people are these? That's the country we have? We just pass things because we have to find out what's in them? Whatever happened to trying to make law that worked, or trying to pass some programs that might actually have a chance of doing something productive for the country? These people are passing things, they don't even know what's in it. How stupid can you be? That lady's an idiot. Should be drummed out of office. She comes from this liberal mecca of the country in San Francisco that's just entrenched with these ideologues that are out of touch with reality. They need to occasionally turn on a TV set or something and pay attention to what's happening over in Europe with this invasion of refugees that's going on in Germany and Belgium and France. Now we have to, I guess, confiscate all the trucks in the country, because the last incident, or one of the last ones in Nice, France, there was a truck used to mow down 100-something people. Well, we got to get those trucks out of the hands of everybody. They're dangerous, dangerous things now. The country has turned to just complete idiocy, in my opinion, and we need to get our people educated, re-educated. We need to get rid of the brainwashing of these ideologues, liberal progressives, and get something in their brains that will actually make sense. I've professed for a long time to support teaching common sense. We can call it CS 101. And we actually teach it in school to where we make students aware that they have gray matter between their ears, and they can use it. They need to analyze what they're being told, look at facts, look at what's going on around you, and try to make a determination if what you were just told is the truth or if it's a bunch of BS. There is so much BS out there. It's overwhelming. I think the BS is turned in about 90% of what you hear. And unfortunately, about 40-something% of the people actually listen to it and believe it. And that's where a country gets in a dangerous position. When your people start, believing the crap that's out there, you're in a world of hurt. You have Nancy Pelosi professing a year or so ago, well, unemployment's good because for every dollar we spend through this government program, we get $1.79 returned. Uh, I just don't know what to say to that anymore. I mean, I talk about it a lot on this show because I think it needs to be heard. That is maniac type stuff. I mean, good God. All we have to do is all go on unemployment and we'll increase the GMP, I guess, by 79% or whatever. What a great plan that'll be. I wonder how fast the cliff will approach on that type of train wreck. But anyways, there's some other things going on. All the publications and stuff that I've read today, even including the Las Vegas Tribune, had a story written by someone else, I guess, but published in the paper, along with a review journal and some other organizations. I think it's on the web a little bit too. But Michael McDonald, I guess, in Cleveland, representing the delegates of Nevada, made a statement about the city of Las Vegas being the capital, which, in my opinion, was totally taken out of context and distorted. Of course, this is what we're getting from our mainstream media. Everything is for some ulterior purpose and just trying to make Michael McDonald look like a fool. But actually, I think the people that wrote the stories have a little some explaining to do, because Las Vegas is known as the capital of entertainment in the world. All over the world, Las Vegas, the city, is known as the entertainment capital of the world. Now, that's in the dialogue, it's been there for decades, okay? And we are the entertainment capital of the world here in Las Vegas. So when Michael McDonald stated that and he put in the phrase entertainment capital city, Las Vegas. He didn't say capital of the state. He said entertainment capital. What is wrong with that statement? I don't get this. It's just more crap coming our way. So, anyways, I just thought I'd point that out to you. It's not that big of a deal. Maybe Michael McDonald has gone forth and said he was talking about entertainment, because that's what he said, entertainment capital, city of Las Vegas. It is the entertainment capital. He didn't say it was the state capital. He said entertainment capital. Anyways, and I got to point out another point that I think is just absolutely ridiculous. It shows the desperation of the mainstream media, shows the desperation of the Democratic Party, who's, I tell you what, if they're not desperate, they sure as hell need to be. I tell you what, they put up the worst candidate to ever run for office in the history of the world, in my opinion, and the most corrupt. Just so much baggage in this lady. It's just, and she's not an attractive lady anymore. She's a screeching, cackling creep. And for the Democrats to, whoever did it, I guess, makes an issue out of Melania Trump's speech, where apparently some words that were also used by Michelle Obama in I guess it was a convention speech likewise, when Obama was nominated for president, maybe. And of course, when you're talking kind of like an inspirational, almost tongue-in-cheek dialogue put forth by a potential first lady, you're going to have some, comments in there that have been said before. It's not like you're plagiarizing somebody's published document, some novel that they wrote. This is absurd, but it shows how desperate they are. And the only reason I bring it up is because it really shows that this is what the DNC wants to raise to bring down the Trumps, that they copied or plagiarized Michelle Obama's speech from years ago. Now, the truth comes out that actually the speech was Mrs. Trump had a lot of input into the speech. She more or less wrote it herself. But then she has these checkers that check everything before it supposedly goes out. They read the speech, make sure everything's correct, and there's no fact checkers. They check the speech for accuracy. Well, the fact checker, I guess, to check the speech, didn't notice or it didn't dawn on her or whatever the reason is. But anyway, she took the responsibility that she missed, didn't do her job good enough, I guess, and missed that had been said before by another first lady candidate. But I mean, so what? I mean, so what? Look at the other side. Look at the Democrat candidate. You have, whatever she is, you have a despicable liar, not a plagiarizer, a liar who lied to the family members of dead American heroes at their funeral. Hillary Clinton lied to the mother of these dead soldiers, lied to them, and said that their sons died because of a despicable video that was shot. And that is a complete fabrication that was dreamed up by the Obama administration and all their little operatives like Rice and so forth that was spewing this garbage before the public for like 2 weeks. A dead, stone cold lie, and that was done to protect Obama's reelection campaign because he was before the people of the country saying how they have everybody on the run. They've beaten back this and beaten back that, and oh, what a great success they've had. When the truth of the matter was just the opposite. But we're used to that with the Obamas and the Clintons. They're just out and out pathological liars. They're out for themselves and will distort any figure to hide the fact that these people are complete incompetence. Well, anyways, this is what you're up against. This is the candidate that the Democrats put forth. And they are so desperate to try to make the Trumps look bad that the best that they can come up with is a few words in Mrs. Trump's speech that seem to be very common words and very common rhetoric that's put out there, that she plagiarized Michelle Obama's speech. Nothing could be further from the truth. And as it comes out, the fact checker, its job was to check the speech before it was put out, missed that, you know. But the Democrat operatives are so desperate. They look at everything, they analyze. If there's nothing there, they distort it, they swap it around, they change it, they maneuver it, they take things out of context. These people are just desperate. Look at your own candidate. We don't have to make up anything about her. She does it to herself. She lies to dead soldiers' family, the mother of dead soldiers? What a despicable candidate. I can't dream of a worse person that's ever come forth. And the Democrats always seem very delete of any bench, if you will. Their players are just retards, like Al Gore, Mr. Stiff Board, uh, global warming, Mr. Aficionado, that California was going to fall into the ocean within 10 years. And now he lives on the coast of California, and I guess a $12 million house that somehow on his vice president's salary he was able to put together. Well, actually, I guess it was dealing with our enemies, our Mideastern uh, ideologues and publications that he sold out to, and made himself millions of dollars selling to enemies. He's just oh God. There's nobody on the Democrat side that makes any sense, and hasn't for a long time to me. Maybe the last one, and I was pretty young, but John F. Kennedy seemed to be more like a conservative than a Democrat. Uh, Other than that, you start throwing names around like Jimmy Carter. Are you kidding me? Uh, Johnson, I think he had a lot of issues. Lyndon Johnson, I think the war in Vietnam had a lot of ups and downs and a lot of despicability about that he was a part of. Jimmy Carter speaks for himself. He was the top contender for the worst president ever until Obama came along. And I think Jimmy Carter sends Obama a thank you card every day, from what I hear. But anyways, then who do we move along, and we have Bill Clinton. Never would have been elected president of the United States if it wasn't for a guy named Ross Perot. So Clinton got in there not for one but two terms, because Ross Perot didn't do enough damage to the country the first time he ran. He had to run again, and that caused Clinton to be reelected. So he is the least electable candidate that's ever succeeded to office, because he got fewer votes than anybody, I think, that ever got the office. Quite a accomplishment. And if, thank God, after the first 2 years, I think he was just like Obama in the way that they control both houses in the Congress. And that you get devastation when you get a liberal progressive in there and they control the whole government. You get nothing but taxes, 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 and spend, spend, spend. And I can remember those days when Hillary Clinton, our candidate here, was mouthing off that she spoke to a lady in Des Moines the other day, and the lady said, "Why don't you consider raising the milk tax or the this tax or the that tax?" That I think that would be a good way to help reduce the deficit that we're faced with here in the country. And I want to know, who is this lady? I want to call her up. The problem is, it's like Harry Reid's phantom relayer of the fact that, or the supposed fact that Romney hadn't paid his taxes for 10 years. I guess maybe that was the wife of the guy that told Reid that. I don't know. But these are all fabrications of these liberal progressives where it sounds good to have these phantom people told me this and asked me. It's all phony, baloney crap is what it is. And we have to have common sense 101 taught in the schools so we don't fall for this crap. It's just crap. Harry Reid was confronted after the election with the now, I guess, pretty well substantiated fact that, of course, Romney had paid taxes for 10 years. He gives more money to charities and being a Mormon to the church and other things, and in taxes to the government, than Harry Reid has ever made in his lifetime. And he's got the audacity to go to the Senate floor and give an absolute lie about a presidential candidate. I mean, what a despicable character these people are. And you had the Democrat Party is just bereft with them. They're all over the place. You got Hillary Clinton propped up there by the DNC and the famous Debbie Wasserman Blabbermouth Schultz, and they have to make her look good. So they dust off Bernie Sanders from someplace, not even a Democrat. He's a registered independent, kind of votes with the Democrats in Congress. But anyways, they prop him up there as a candidate that they can put on the stage and in the debates and everything to reflect on the fact of how great Hillary is. Because in comparison to Bernie Sanders, that way they could even make Hillary look good, the worst candidate ever to be put in that position. But it almost backfired on him because Bernie almost won. I mean, that's how poor candidate Hillary Clinton is. She's just despicable. And then the DNC has to pick on Melania Trump, who will probably be one of the most attractive, anyways, first ladies ever. I'm not saying that any of the other first ladies haven't had their own attractiveness about them. I'm not saying that at all. They're all their own, but they all have their own character. They have their own substance and everything else. I'm not taking away from anybody, any former first ladies, but you look at she's a former model, a very successful one, I guess, and on the score of how she takes care of herself. She's very well taken care of, that's for sure. I think she's doing a great job raising her son Barron. Seems to be an up and comer. He's only 10 years old, but he's getting a good upbringing because Mrs. Trump takes care of him. And she's a full-time mother, and she's doing her job and doing a good one. And she speaks, I think, 5 or 7 languages. I've heard both numbers. But she's just a very intelligent, she carries herself just astonishingly well. I think America can be extremely proud of her as a first lady. Now, compare the possibility of first whatevers, Melania Trump as first lady or Bill Clinton as first husband. Good God, what a comparison that is. I mean, it is shocking, that difference there. And then you compare Donald Trump, a very successful businessman, flies around in his own, what is that, 757 or something. I mean, incredible airplane for a private businessman, if you will. Not a king of this or a king of that, or president
the United States in the 747. But I mean, that's an impressive airplane. Trump in big letters, of course, on the side of it. I mean, the guy, say what you want about him, but he certainly has got an image. He's, you know, any businessman has a few rough spots in their climb to success. I don't know of a successful businessman that hasn't had a few bumps in the road. It's absurd to say that they haven't. The only ones that don't have bumps are the people that inherit millions and millions and millions of dollars, more than they ever try to spend or use or anything else. And they're the only ones that have never done anything. But Donald Trump took a small loan from his father. I think I've heard $1 million. And that's nothing in the real estate business, even when Trump was an up and comer. But they got him started anyway. I'm pretty sure he paid it back. I hear he did. But at any rate, he made that into where he makes $400 or $500 million a year. He personally makes. That's taking $1 million and to end up with a profit a year basis year after year. That's pretty goddamn strong. Now Hillary Clinton goes out and gives speeches to our enemies, or sends hubby Bill out to give a speech to the Syrians or the Libyans or whatever. He gets $750,000 check that supposedly goes to the Clinton Crime Foundation, which has raised millions and millions and millions of dollars from our enemies, or people that are buying influence. I mean, this is just corruption to the max. This would never work. If you were in private business, you'd be going to friggin' jail. Uh, but Hillary, of course, is exempt from jail because she has a D next to her name, and D for despicable. But how can we even fall for this type of person running for president of the United States? It's only because half of the country are idiots. And I'll say that day in and day out. Anybody considering voting for that woman has got some issues with their gray matter, whatever's left of it, if any at all, between their ears. I mean, you can't justify that woman to be president ever. And just listen to the people that they interview uh, sometimes on shows. They ask women, well, she's voting for Hillary because she's a woman. It's time for a woman to be president. Well, there may be something said about that, but not that woman. What has she ever done except have devastation follow her around? She is the worst ever. Look at that Clinton first administration under Bill, hubby Billy, Mr. Bubba, got BJs in the Oval Office and stains on blue dresses. And I mean, and the reports coming out now about their security staff that was in charge of keeping them safe and everything, flying ashtrays or vases or what have you. These are just trailer trash people, are what they are. They're just, oh my God, makes my skin crawl thinking about these people. And here they are, and they're maybe going to be elected husband and wife in the White House again from the Clinton years of corruption and scandal and gates and selling the Lincoln bedroom, renting out the Lincoln bedroom to campaign contributors, selling seats on the Secretary of Commerce, I think he was Brown. That plane ended up crashing, but they were selling seats for X amount of dollars from contributors. They were getting campaign contributions, and that would get you a seat to go peddle your wares in some foreign governments with the guys that the Secretary of Labor or Business or whatever he was is, you're on his plane, so that carries with it, I guess, a certain feeling of power. And this is what you're faced with: a corrupt government. And with leaders like that, we don't have a prayer of getting this country back on the track that we need it to be on. We were the greatest country in the world. We had the best standard of living. We came out with some fabulous products that were invented from the entrepreneurs in this country. Look at the airplane and the Wright brothers. That was 13 years ago. They had baling wire and rubber bands or whatever that thing was made out of, Kitty Hawk, and that thing was the first thing that really ever get off the air. kind of, I think, created the wing design where the air going over the top is different from the air going in below, and that creates lift. What a concept. And today we have these big, gigantic airplanes. We have the space shuttles. We've gone to the moon. We have a space station up there, I guess, pretty much all the time now, floating around. And we think about 113 years ago, we didn't even know how to get off the ground. Phenomenal success that we've had in this country. Uh, and now we've kind of slowed down on the creative minds because there's so much regulation, so much hindrance that's created by these liberal progressives and in Congress and the Senate and every place else, these so-called legislators that actually hinder business by passing regulation after regulation. I think the National Register, whatever it is, like 800,000 regulations that business people have to plow through just to figure out what the hell they can do and can't do. You have the EPA that shuts down farmers or fines them $10,000-$20,000 a day because they have a puddle that appeared on their farm, maybe from rain or what have you. And if they try to do something about covering up the puddle, then they get all these fines and whatnot. I mean, it's just moronic. We have to get a common sense leader like a Donald Trump in there that can say, look, we're going to go back to common sense, okay? And if a regulation doesn't make sense, by God, let's get rid of it. Let's get out of the hair of the people that are the creators of the very same type of things we were talking about, planes and this and that. And let's get some creativity going. Let's get the entrepreneurs back to work. Let's get the hell out of their face and start creating something. And what we'll find out when we have someone in charge, unlike Nancy Pelosi, for every dollar we spend in unemployment, we get $1.79 back. Other than thinking like that, that's just catastrophic and doesn't work. We'll get some entrepreneurs that actually produce something and become productive. And then this country can get back in the right track where our productivity goes up and our regulations go down. And then guess what that's going to do? That's going to create more revenue for the government. But when that happens, we have to make sure that the government doesn't just spend us into oblivion again. You're on the air, Radio Tribune.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail. Goodbye.
Well, I don't know what that was. Our phone's ringing off the hook here. People trying to be heard, and I don't know, they're calling some weird way. Anyways, I was saying we have to get back to productivity to where we can actually increase the quality of life here in this country. We can start eliminating or helping the homeless people that seem to be increasing in phenomenal numbers. We have increased the people on food stamps under the Obama administration dramatically. Everything is going in the wrong direction because we don't have any leadership. We have a despicable person in the White House. I'll say it, he's despicable. He's not really an American, he's anti-American. He'd rather take care of these ideologues from the Mideast and this caliphate of taking over the world and destroying the world, really. These are not the type of people that we want as leaders in this country, cutting off Christians' heads or anybody's head. I mean, these people are cockroaches and they need to be eliminated. And I think with a Donald Trump in the leadership reins, getting good qualified generals in there that know how to win wars and will be given the authority to do so, unlike Obama, who has more or less through his crap and phony baloney engagement regulations and what have you in war, has run 4 or 5 very qualified individuals out of the service to this country. Like General Flynn, who may be a part of the Trump administration. Obama ran them out. They just couldn't last anymore under Obama's foolish, degenerate, anti-American crap that he put forth. You can't be someone in a job with a leader above you that's a moron. It just doesn't work. The more qualified an individual is, the less he's got to put up with that kind of stuff. Uh, I've worked in my lifetime for people that have uh, they put like a son in charge of some company that they may own, and I work underneath that little regime. And the sons that come in to play wouldn't be qualified to be a dishwasher if their father wasn't the owner of the company. And these people are given orders to qualified people that are underneath them, and these orders make no sense. It's like Nancy Pelosi, let's all go on unemployment. I mean, they're foolish, they're destructive. And my nature is, I'm not going to do something that's stupid, that makes no sense, just because this guy has a title that's telling me to do this. I don't respect that. I don't try to do much about it. I just leave. The hell with it. I'm not going to operate. And the company's doomed to fail with that type of leadership. And lo and behold, the companies where I ran into that type of a situation, every one of them failed. Because when you start losing good people at the top, your days are numbered. And that's what happens. And we have to go back to getting some qualified people, and Trump will do that. He will put in the positions of leadership good generals. They're going to have the reign of the military, and they're going to be told, win this thing and win it now. And we won't go over there and get involved in any civil political wars, for some DNC or RNC or crap or whatever the hell their real agenda is. We're going to win the war for the American people. We're going to stop this crap where we're getting invaded by these terrorists. And Hillary Clinton wants to bring in 500% more terrorists than what's being brought in right now. We shouldn't be bringing anyone in. Why would we want to bring anybody into this country that has no identification, has no money, has no education? These aren't doctors and people that we're bringing in here that could be productive for America. A lot of them are terrorists trying to kill us. For God's sakes, wake up, America. Wake up. We can't have this. This is stupidity is what it is. The Nancy Pelosi type government and Harry Reid, who was incidental in jamming through one of the most destructive things of the Obama administration, has been the health deal, whatever that was. It had nothing to do with health, by the way. It was forced mandatory insurance, like forcing everybody to buy a Chevrolet. It was mandatory insurance. The government forcing the American people to buy something. What's going to happen in that is exactly what happened. This is no surprise. Everything went up when Obama was promising everything would go down. The opposite happened. This is what happens in government when they try to get involved in something. You, for the most part, will always get the opposite reaction and opposite result because they're just totally incompetent to do anything. And we have to realize the government has its place. We need government for certain things, and we need to limit the government to do those certain things. And some of them they do well because, frankly, they're the only ones that can. You need some sort of authority to do some things. And as long as you don't abuse that authority, everything will stay right and will stay on course. When you start abusing it, that's when you start getting very gray area and very muddy, and you end up with devastation and destruction. And that's what this country had better watch out for. For example, you take the judiciary here in Nevada. Here we go again, but I have to talk about this because if you don't inform, you end up with destruction. I was in court the other day and witnessed a judge who is totally unqualified to be in the position he's in. He has absolutely no idea of the law. He is an ex-prosecutor, years and year prosecutor that may know something about criminal law, but he sure as hell doesn't know anything about civil law, because where would he get that knowledge from? He's never been educated in any of that stuff. And he's making decisions that are unconstitutional. They can't be done. And some of the things that he's thinking about doing are fundamental, basic, foundational law of our country. In this particular country, we have a doctrine, I guess you could call it now, where uh, if you have litigation, civil litigation, that both parties pay their own legal fees. That's called the American rule. That's backwards, or not the same as every place else in the world. Every place, I believe, has what they call loser pays. So if you sue somebody and you lose, you're gonna have to pony up not only all of your legal fees that your lawyer's gonna be looking for, but you're gonna have to pay the legal fees on the other side. So before you sue somebody, you better be damn sure that you have a case that you can win. Now, the reason that we have the American rule in this country is because the legal establishment, lawyers, have got together and contribute to a fund that I guess backs a lobbyist movement in Washington, D.C., that makes damn sure that the Congress and the Senate doesn't interfere with the so-called American rule. Because if they were to go to loser pays like the rest of the world, which I guess must make some sort of sense because the rest of the world does it. But here in America, we have this lawyer lobbying group that prevents that from happening. When you hear about some litigation reform or changing the way that things are done in this country, the top thing on the top of the list for a reform is always go to loser pays. That's one of the fundamental foundations that they're trying to do to straighten out a lot of the problems we have here. But if you were to go to loser pays, think about what would happen. The lobbyists for the lawyers would be out of business more or less because the lawyers couldn't fund them anymore because the amount of volume of the cases that are out there looking for lawyers would dramatically decrease. I would say just automatically would go down 50%. If you had to only go to court if you had a good chance of winning and you were willing to invest your money to do it, and if you lost, you're not only going to pay your fees, you're going to pay the other side's fees. That would just tear up litigation. The volume of litigation would dramatically decrease. And that's the kind of legal reform this country needs. But you see, in this country, we're foolish. We've been corrupted. We have lawyers that have taken over the lobbying effort in Congress and the Senate in Washington, D.C., to prevent common sense from coming into the practice of law. This is ridiculous. When you talk to somebody about what makes sense, like loser pays, that doesn't make sense to a lawyer because right away he knows he's going to lose cases, and his income's going to dramatically go down, and that's why it doesn't happen. But this whole country is the legal system has been corrupted. I think the Las Vegas Tribune published several months ago a map of the country where an organization out of Washington, D.C. does a study every year on the integrity of like the courts. And they published a map that showed the states and what their ranking was. 46 out of 50 states ranked in F on judicial integrity. Now that is a pretty friggin' poor report card for the judiciary in this country. Several years ago, maybe 6, 8 years ago, there were states on there that ranked B's and C's. Now 4 have a grade better than F. 2 of those, or 3, I think, are D or D minuses, and there's 1 C. All the rest are Fs. Now that is something that you can look at. You can go online, just put in judicial integrity and whatever, and that chart will come up. That tells me something, having gray matter between my ears, a little of it left anyways. My God, and then you look at how it's been going over the years. It's getting worse and worse. And when you have people sitting on the bench, like this judge I witnessed the other day, I mean, totally unqualified to be in any kind of position of authority, because what he does in making the rules and or making the decisions that he's trying to put forth, which are blatantly unconstitutional, by the way. This case is not about something that's, iffy or evolving or something that's changing. This is fundamental, basic law that's been going back since this country was founded and a long time before that, even. Common law from England days and everything else, the Romans, it goes back forever. And this judge is completely oblivious to that. Oblivious. It's so frustrating because that's what they say, oh, that's the system. You can't fight City Hall. You've heard that, I'm sure, your whole life. Well, we need to fight City Hall because City Hall is broken. And if we don't fix it, we're hardlining right towards the cliff. And we're going to lose this country. This country has more assets, more natural resources, probably than about any other place in the world. And we have the best chance of having a great, great life, a great society, the strongest country ever. And why the hell would we throw that away with people like Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and Hussein Obama and people like that in power and a Hillary Clinton? You got to be kidding. Oh my God. Geez, that's just unfathomable to me. There's like 20 unexplained bodies that are surfaced in the trail of the Clintons. I mean, Jesus, criminy. I don't even see how they, I don't get any of this. This is amazing. But when I sit through a court thing the other day, like I did, and we're talking fundamental, basic 101 law, and what this judge, to tell you what he's trying to do, which is so silly, it's just ridiculous. We just talked about loser pays, okay? Every other country in the world, the loser pays in a court case, a civil court case. This judge is going to turn that totally upside down. He's considering making a ruling where the winner pays the loser legal fees. Now you think about that. That is fundamentally 180 degrees opposite of what needs to be done. What this country needs to do to straighten out the judicial process in this country and maybe go from an F to maybe a D minus to start with, you need to have loser pays. That's the type of reform we need. That'll dramatically cut down on all the crap that's going on. It's going to eliminate a lot of the income and enrichment that lawyers partake in now. Too goddamn bad. Let them go be a judge or something. Get the hell out of our, society in a way. Just do something else. But when you have a judge sitting on the bench that's trying to justify the principle that the winner is going to pay the loser, Jesus, I mean, how do you explain that? And this judge just ignores it. A lawyer tells him he can't do that, and the judge says in one of his famous replies, "Well, I'm not going to relitigate this on that." No, what? Who asked you to relitigate anything? You're not relitigating, you're destroying litigation. You can't have a system where the winner pays the loser. What are you kidding me? What kind of a moron are you? Do you have any gray matter between your head at all? How do you explain that? But you try to ask a judge when you're dealing in an environment where only the lawyers in the courtroom can speak, and if a pro se litigant should show up that opens his mouth, they shut him down fast by lying to him or holding him in contempt or whatever. They don't want pro se people before them because pro se litigants are going to point out the law to these judges, and that's not what they want. They do not want to have to answer any questions. They don't want to have to justify what they do. They're just going to lie and cheat and screw around, and that's what they do. So it's terrible. It's a broken system, and it needs to change. And when you have to fight something like this, fight City Hall, if you will, or fight a judge, see, they wear this thing, a black robe, and they think they're it. They're it. All rise. Yeah, why are we rising? For who? These people don't have an integrity left. The hell we gonna rise for? Jesus Christ. But it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. But you see all the little operatives in court, all these so-called lawyers, are protecting their ground, because if they go against the judge dramatically, bring up a question that the judge can't answer, you're gonna go on the shit list of that judge forever. And you're not gonna win any more cases, not in his court, because he's gonna have you in a special place, and you're done for. Your income's gonna go down, your clients aren't gonna get a fair shake, nothing's gonna happen good for you. And the other thing this judge, is thinking of doing, he's thinking of awarding fees to an out-of-state law firm that has absolutely not a thing to do with the case that's before him. Nothing, zero. And this judge said in court the other day that he doesn't agree with a lawyer that's telling him you can't award fees to an out-of-state law firm that is not a party to it, has no standing. It's not before this court. It never has been. They're 3,000 miles away, never stepped foot that I know of in them. What are you doing? And well, the judge, I don't agree with you. Oh, okay, that's the end of that conversation, I guess. My lawyer just said 2 and 2 is 4, and this judge said, I don't agree with you. He didn't say what 2 and 2 is. The judges won't do that. And as a lawyer, you can't make them do that, or you're going to be on the shit list. So the lawyer just shuts up. I'm saying, no, ask him what 2 and 2 is. If it's not 4, what the hell is it? But, my lawyer just stammers and stutters and tries to protect his ground by being on the good side of the judge, when the last side, if I was in court as a lawyer, the last side I would be on or want to be on is the side, a good side, of a despicable, illegal judge like this. Because I don't see how anything good can come out of that. Maybe you'll do better on the money side of the equation if you don't piss this judge off. But let me tell you something. I'm a big believer, a bad apple spoils the cart. And like the police department, let's say, just for example, if you have a bad cop, he's going to spoil the reputation of a lot of other good cops. So as a good cop, you should get rid of that bad cop, because he's not helping you. But now you pencil in the fact that this bad cop has a union, perhaps, that's going to, fight for the bad cop. Everything in the world is kind of like doesn't make sense anymore. And the reason is because by having these types of things in place, nothing does make sense. When you have a union protecting a bad cop, or other cops protecting a bad cop, just because that's the good old boy network, your days as a functional entity in this country, I think, are numbered. I think you're marching towards a cliff. This judge, in this particular case I'm talking about, is completely out to lunch. Restoring this guy to any respectability or integrity, I don't think is possible. Because how can you purport to rule on a case where the loser's attorney gets paid from the winner? Is there anybody out there that can make any sense out of that? Call me if you can. I'd like to hear it. 702-493-5222. That blows my mind. I like to think I've been accused of having an abundance of common sense. That's like a bad thing in this world we live in now. But people don't win a lot of arguments with me, especially if they're coming from a point where they're lacking common sense. They don't do well having a debate with me. And then at the end of the day, they just call me a racist or something else, which doesn't make sense either. But then they complain that I have too much common sense. Oh, I didn't know that was a bad thing. Okay, whatever. Everything in this world's upside down right now. But the taxpayers of the state of Nevada have better pay attention to what's going on here, because the bottom line in this case I'm talking about, I think these funny, nonsensical, silly things that are going on, there's something that's causing this to happen. And I think it's because it was an old judge who retired named Alan Earl that I think stayed beyond his time as a judge in this position of authority. And I think there towards the end of his term, he wasn't hitting on all cylinders. I'm trying to be nice. I could be a lot more accurate probably by just shooting it out there. But anyways, he made some serious fatal mistakes Constitutionally, he ignored binding precedences that the state of Nevada must follow. Their constitution, Article 1, Section 2, mandates that being a state, the United States, part of the United States, higher rulings from the US Supreme Court dictate as controlling precedences that all state Supreme Courts, for example, of the state must follow binding precedences from the highest court in the land, which is the US Supreme Court. That's mandated in the state's constitution, and that gives them sovereignty in their state. And they have to follow the highest court in the land. That's just the way it is. That's the law of the land. This Judge Earl ignored that. He ruled contrary to a binding precedent. The appellate court has just affirmed Judge Earl's decision, but did they? Not really. They did not, because the wording and language in this affirmation is extremely convoluted and suspect, where they don't mention some words like rem jurisdiction. They don't mention that. They won't name that word, even though the brief that was filed in the case had rem was the main issue at hand, and they refused to even refer to it. See, there's something being covered up. And I think that something is this Judge Earl made a huge fatal mistake. And what he did, the bottom line, is he stole money by signing a fraudulent document stating that a cashier's check had been lost when it wasn't lost. And that resulted in the state, him, getting access to hundreds of thousands of dollars, $1 million. And he took that money and he demanded that it be distributed to his buddy lawyers before he even entered an order to distribute the money. That's contrary to Nevada civil procedures. That's another violation of the law. But this judge didn't care. His theory was get rid of the money and then all this will go away. And he'll get away with his fatal mistakes that he made. And he even went so far as to reserve $400,000 as a slush fund to prevent the plaintiff, me in this case, the plaintiff, from appealing his illegal order. He thought if he kept $400,000 to pay legal fees, that the plaintiff would go away and give up. Well, this plaintiff ain't going away. He ain't giving up. So what's happened is the state of Nevada has got themselves in a position through these illegal maneuverings and unconstitutional stuff done by Judge Earl. Judge Gephardt is now covering up for this judge. The appellate court is trying to cover up for the whole mess, but while they were in the position of coming forth with this affirmation, they called it, that was convoluted and suspect because they didn't use words that were the issue. They were avoiding them. And then on the other hand, the Supreme Court comes down with a ruling on another case, but the exact same issue at law is, can a state control property in another state? And the answer is a definitive no. That's not even a question. It's, no. That's the answer. So the Supreme Court ruled properly in a case just like it. You're on the air, Radio Tribune. Hello?
Yes, I'm inquiring on your position on a president,
Yes?
on the female president. Do you believe that we do need a female president?
Well, we need if we're gonna have a female president, I don't have an issue with that at all, but it has to be the right female. Not the one that's currently running. She's probably out of a list of all the women in the world that could be president, she would be on the bottom of anyone's list, I would hope.
So if America votes for Hillary to become the president, in your opinion, what does that say to Americans who vote for a woman that you're saying is not qualified to run?
What does it say about the people that voted for her?
If they vote her into office and she becomes the president, yes, what does that say to the voters who placed her in office?
Well, I would hope that there's voters running around out there that elected Obama into office and they have analyzed what the results of that, him being in office, have been. And I hear there's a lot of people that voted for him that would take their vote back if they could. And I would hope that if Hillary Clinton ever got into office, I know that her performance would be at such a miserable level that this country could really, really be hurt. And I think the people that voted for her in good numbers will say, holy smokes, what a mistake I made. And the ones that vote for her to start with are like some of the people I've seen interviewed, and they're voting for her just because it's time for a woman president. Okay, but not that one. That's my answer to them. I don't deny that the time could be right for a woman president. You have to be qualified. That's all. The gender to me doesn't have anything to do with it. It's the qualifications. What has that particular lady we're talking about? What has she ever done that has worked? Can you one accomplishment?
Well, it seems to me that every time a new election comes around, and particularly the two outstanding parties, Republican and the Democrat, that the public is angry now at the party that is already resident.
Right, and that's because of
other office to take.
and that the reason for that, of course, is because the performance of the party in power right now has been miserable.
But it seems to be constant. I mean, I don't know if any time in history have voters not been upset with the president that is now resident.
Well, after Reagan's term, they elected his vice president.
8 years, whatever, they wanted the president.
Well, after 8 years of Ronald Reagan, the people voted in Bush, who was Reagan's vice president. So they weren't angry with Reagan. I think the consensus out there is Reagan improved America while he was president. And as a result, they voted in his vice president.
And you know that a lot of people disagree with that.
With what?
Well, that they would say that Reagan was a good president. Certainly many say he was, but that doesn't mean they say that he wasn't. My point is that let me ask you in a different way. What would be the qualifications of a female president that you would recommend?
Well, I think, I don't know if you want to mention names. I think Condoleezza Rice has had some qualifications, some accomplishments in her day in government that seem to be at least on the right side of policies and so forth. She has to be not an ideologue, not a somebody that's destructive to the American way of life, not someone that's anti-American, someone that's pro-American, to support America as number one. You know, the fundamental principles of what has always made sense. It's these people that run.
Let me pause you there with this.
All right.
So Condoleezza Rice is not running. So therefore, Hillary.
Right, well, Hillary's the wrong woman.
But the masses feel that, hey, above all things, it's time for a change and we need a female president. Would they not just blindly vote for the female candidate that's being offered to them?
Some people out there are lining up to vote with her because, and only because, she's a woman. They're not going at all to the
I
qualifications.
agree that is true that many will, but if they feel that they're tired of the men and this is their only choice, then it's a given. They're going to vote for her only because she's a woman.
And that's a mistake, because you're voting for someone who's totally unqualified. Let's take the gender out of it. It doesn't matter. She's totally unqualified.
Yes, very quickly I want to ask you, I heard you mention about court cases, judges who do not properly handle cases. Do you believe that when a judge mishandles the case, that builds up the public confidence in government, or does it lower the confidence of the public in government? And what should be done about it to strengthen confidence in government, like in the court?
There's a company out of Washington, D.C. that rates the court systems in this country by state, and they grade the states as to integrity, like of their judiciary and legislature and everything else, executive branch, they come up with like a yearly report card. Well, the most recent report card has 46 out of 50 states receiving an F grade, failing grade in judicial integrity. So, and years before that, it wasn't that many Fs. So we're going in the wrong direction. So the answer to your question is that we have to have integrity in our court system. And the quickest way to start to get back to that is judges must follow the law. They can't not follow the law because they have some agenda. Let's say their agenda is to enrich some lawyer practicing in their court for a multitude of reasons. Maybe they like the guy. Maybe the guy gives the judge an unusually high campaign contribution. Or there are any number of things. But if he rules contrary to a black and white law that's on the books, and then he does that because he thinks he's 99% sure he'll get away with it because the appeal court will not overturn him because of who he is or whatever, or the party that he's going to damage doesn't have the money or the wherewithal or the inclination to keep beating a dead horse because the court system is broken. It's not a good thing to have a court system that's totally illegal.
You also about solutions. I could suggest a couple of them maybe you can discuss if you agree or disagree. But one solution I believe would be that they would no longer allow a person to be appointed. So it becomes just a judge placed as political favor. They will minimize that. And the second thing would be that judges again will be on probation. And the third one would be that when they run for office, it would have to be a clear and distinct campaign, not clustered, so that the focus right now is president, so all kind of judges slip in, and no one's even giving attention to the judges that's running. They're not being introduced to the public. So they kind of go under the shadow of, again, the president or whoever else is running, and the public doesn't even give that any real mind or focus.
Well, so your solution would be, and this is an expensive one, by the way, probably, but you know your idea may be very sound, common sense wise, is you don't run judges if that's what you're going to do, elect judges. I think that's a mistake because of campaigns and money and all that. But anyways, if you were going to allow the electorate to elect a judge, if we were to have, let's say, 4-year terms, even 6-year terms, try to get these judges that all come up at the same time for re-election, and you have a standalone, pick a time of the year, it has nothing to do with any other offices, that we have a judicial election for judges one time every 6 years all over the country, maybe at the same time, that's not necessary, but in the community, and then that's it. That's the only thing before the electorate is a judge.
Right.
That would be good, but that's a special election, and I guess that would probably be kind of expensive to pull off. But when you think about the repercussions of anything else, you would have a hell of a lot better chance of getting judges, I think, that way, that are qualified.
Yes, and the public then can make a reasonable selection because they really get to know who that person is.
An informed election is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Correct. That's a good solution, but maybe the devastation that these idiot judges do is so intense that even if these special elections would cost a lot of money, it might be something that we consider because, Jesus, I tell you what, F grade, that's good.
I think the money that will be invested, that will be far less than the appeal cases and the complaints and everything else that follows when you have judges that's not really working with that integrity that you mentioned earlier.
I think you're right, but how do you weigh that in to prove it when the first thing you gotta do is spend the money up front just to get these guys elected right? How do you know what the bottom line's gonna be with the appeals and this and that? You'll see it over time. If this works, it'll be a huge improvement in what you're talking about. So maybe the end justifies the means, I guess.
You started off suggesting that there's not judges who are elected, but there are judges that are elected. They campaign all the, we see their signs, and that's about it.
Right, but in Nevada, we elect our judges, okay?
Right.
Initially, when the country was founded, the founding fathers did not provide that we elect our judges. They provided that we appoint them. Well, because money and everything else gets involved, all that starts to get distorted, and state after state decided to go for the money or whatever, the corruption if you have, or what have you, and they start electing their judges. Then they do that for a while, and then some smart states say, whoa, this is not working out too good. So they go back to some sort of a merit-based committee that screens these judges and stuff like that. But you have a conflict either way. If you appoint a judge by someone elected, what's this? I mean, it's a choice. But I think the idea you came up with, boy, that's the best one I've heard in a long time, but we have to go for it. Maybe we should create that as a part of a solution that people out there should consider. You put it on a ballot initiative, and we have a special election once every 6 years, And if a judge should die in his term, well, then you just have to go by either the legislature appoints him or the governor or what have you. Yeah, that's going to come up now and then, but then he has to be reelected on the next election. It's a good idea. I like it.
I appreciate that, and I want to say that I commend you for your show Be Heard Thursday. Many people want to be heard, and you're highly appreciated. You provide a venue where people can call in and be heard.
I think that's the answer to our problems. People have to be heard. We are a country of the people, and if we can hear each other and have debates, then maybe we can come up with some ideas that don't come from people like Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and people of that ilk. All right, well, we're going to close up now. That call went a little over our time allotment, but I think it was a good call and it's a very good point. And I like that solution, come to think of it. I don't know how we're going to get it implemented, but we can try and put that out there. I'm going to put that down in my handy dandy computer program here, that's a solution to perhaps a problem that we have. Because the problem we have is F grade, judicial integrity. That is a problem. And we need to come up to a solution for that. So I like that idea. So I'm going to enter that in as a potential solution, kind of like what I have my number one running solution right now is to get rid of the political parties, because they're definitely corrupt organizations and they need to go. They need to be made illegal and they need to be swept from the rat pile of the ideas that have come up here in the United States. The founding fathers did not provide for political parties. As a matter of fact, they warned us that they were a cancer on any society. So we need to do something. We need to get rid of those political parties because they're corrupt. They don't do anything for us. They never have. They just do work for the special interests and get money in the process and buy our elected people that we would take the time to go vote for. They buy them right out from underneath of us. So what the hell is that all about? So anyways, folks, tune in tomorrow, 2 o'clock. We start over, and people can call into this number, 702-493-5222, participate and be heard, come up with your solutions. And then there's another show that I'd like to announce too, that's coming on every night, Monday through Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. And it's another show about solutions. I think that's the key to everything in this world, is what's the solution? I mean, we know the problem, what the hell's the solution? And so it has a good platform. It talks about very relevant things that are happening today with all the turmoil that we're witnessing on a daily basis. Another officer was killed today. I think it was Kansas City or someplace. I mean, this is getting carried away. And we have to come up with a solution to where we come up with some sensible ideas. And then, of course, on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m., we have open mic, it's called, with Gordon Martinez, who is an ex-police officer. So he has some fundamental ideas about solutions to what's going on right now with this apparent war that some fractions are in with the police that we have to address. So that's another good one to listen to. And then Monday through Friday from noon to 1 is Face the Tribune with Rolando Larraz, who opens up his mic to some discussions about a lot of politics, a lot of local politics, a lot of people come in and join his show and get interviewed. And so it's another one of these good shows that's for the people of this state, the city of Las Vegas, and they can make their comments be heard on that one too. So anyways, we have those shows for your listening pleasure. I hope you participate by going to radiotribune.com. Go to that website, open up the show, and you can participate or hear it by just checking on the little triangular button there that's the play button, and you can listen to whatever being broadcast at the moment. After this show, you'll hear some music, and then at 7 o'clock tonight, Solutions in Progress will take off with Warren Williams from 7 to 10 p.m. So be sure to listen to that one. That show has got some real solution possibilities to it, and I like the platform, of course. And then he also opens up the office so people can come by and physically join the show, go on the live mic, go on YouTube, and then you can rewatch the show at your convenience anytime you want, or you can tell your friends about it or what have you. So that's another good show, 7 to 10, Monday through Friday. And come by 717 South 9th Street, and you can physically participate in that show if you have the proclivity to do that. I know some people are shy, and other people are real camera freaks. So, come on and be shot live and go on YouTube, and hell, maybe you'll go viral and you'll get 4, 5, 6 million viewers and you become famous. So give it a shot. Come by 717 South 9th Street. It's right here in downtown Las Vegas. It's just a hair off of Charleston Boulevard and 7th Street. So you'll find us. We're easy to find. And give us a call on the radio show anytime, 702-493-5222. So thanks for listening, America and Nevada and the world. And we'll be back with you tomorrow with Be Heard. And check in with us. Let us know what you think. Thanks for listening.